Hey there, folks. Happy Halloween. Today is October 31st, 2022, and we're going to be reviewing John Carpenter's 1978 classic, Halloween. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, so right off the bat, I'm going to mention that I'm completely aware that I'm not really able to articulate how I feel about this movie properly just yet. In the future, I plan on doing a bigger, more grandiose type video where I go more in depth and talk about the things that I love and appreciate about this movie. But for the sake of finishing off these reviews and keeping it a little bit more simple, I'm just gonna skim over some of the things that I really appreciate about this movie. So without further ado, let's go. Alright guys, so right off the bat, I want to mention how simple the story is. This is simple as a mental patient breaking out of an institute and going on a killing spree, and his doctor is in the background trying to warn the proper authorities of what they're in the midst of. This movie has Donald Pleasance, Jamie Lee Curtis, Nick Castle as The Shape. This movie has beautiful cinematography by Dean Cundey. The music, the atmosphere, everything in this movie is expertly done, and a lot of it can be broken down to lightning in a bottle. Although some of the magic in this movie is accidental, like the mask. Who would have known that doing some of these modifications to a William Shatner mask would have made it look the way that it does? However, it's really not quite as simple as you might think it is, because just for proof, take a look at the other two masks that they had on set, the other stunt masks. Those masks don't look nearly as good as the hero mask. The hero mask was something special. It was that specific mask, and the way that it was handled by Tommy Lee Wallace when he created it, and the way that it started to weather when they were filming the movie, and the way that it looks on Nick Castle's head. All of these things play a factor into the magic of this movie. That's why it's so hard to replicate. And when you try to replicate Michael Myers, the Halloween 1 Michael Myers, you come closer to Dick Warlock instead of Nick Castle, because there's just so many different things. The way that it was lit, the blue light, the way that it looks on Nick Castle's face, the fact that the mask physically changes throughout the movie in the sense of the hair looking a little bit different, the mask being more weathered. And also, you can actually take a look at some of the images where sometimes the castle stretch looks more severe than other scenes. Like, for an example, the scene that we have back here where Michael picks up the phone, the mask is very nice and close to his face in that. It's just barely a castle stretch. Whereas if you look at some of the behind the scenes images of the movie where he stops the kid just after Tommy falls with the pumpkin, when he stops the kid, if you look at the behind the scenes images, you can actually see the mask, and it's like completely pulled away from Nick Castle's face. Obviously, he didn't have to show his face in that scene, so it makes sense that he would have tried to be as comfortable as possible. But there's so many different things, like I said, that go into play in how this mask looks in this movie. And like I said, it's lightning in a bottle, because the specific things just worked out. And speaking of music, the music in this movie is phenomenal. It's done by John Carpenter. It's as simple as can be, and it's as effective as ever. And some of my favorite tracks in this movie are the Laurie's theme, The Shape Works, and the Stingers, which you don't really see come back that often in the rest of the franchise. There's some of the very underutilized pieces of music. The Stingers are usually accompanied by jump scare-like sequences in the movie. You don't see that really ever return other than maybe Halloween 2. Laurie's theme doesn't really come back in other movies. It sort of does, but not a whole lot. And The Shape Lurks isn't really as prevalent as it should be in the rest of the franchise. The other movies lean towards more the Halloween theme, whilst this movie keeps it in its back pocket and uses it maybe 2 or 3 times during the movie outside of the intro and the ending of the film. Again, the lighting and the atmosphere of this movie, the blue light. Just take a look at the speech by Dr. Loomis when he says, "I met him 15 years ago." Look at the way the light glistens off of Dr. Loomis's face, and the atmosphere, the darkness, the blue light, the moonlight in this movie just creates just this aura. You know, it has that mood, that atmosphere, that it's just beautiful. It's craziness. It's my favorite Halloween movie. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. And all of these things have a part in it. Once you go from the daytime to the nighttime scenes, it really feels like a switch was flipped. It feels completely different. You don't get that feeling from 2018. You don't get that feeling from Halloween 5 or Halloween 6. In this movie, when the lights go out, the movie is dark and you can't see shit. the movie is lit in such a way where it's just absolute darkness, and it still looks terrific. I've tried to replicate this myself, and it's very, very hard. The way that the mask looks, the way that they light it, the silhouettes, the hues that you get on the mask, it makes the mask look absolutely intimidating. It makes it look fierce, although it's still emotionless. It still has this blank, pale face. It's insanity. The darkness of the eyes being all done in lighting, which isn't as hard as you might think, but it doesn't skip a beat. You don't see Michael's eyes once in this movie. It's absolutely done to perfection. All the different things you have in this movie. You have little Tommy Doyle, you have Lindsay Wallace, they all play a part in this movie. You have Bob, Linda, Annie, and of course Laurie Strode. All of these characters really make the movie what it is. You have little Tommy Doyle being what brings the narrative of the movie full circle, where he starts off the movie being obsessed with the boogeyman. Or maybe just, you could chalk it up to childlike wonders. You know, he just wants to know, keep asking about it until he gets an answer. But it could show signs of an obsessive personality. But you have Tommy being the what brings the narrative full circle, where at the end of the movie, Laurie realizes that it was the boogeyman when he falls off the balcony, and he just doesn't. He goes through all this pain and this damage, and he just keeps coming. Dr. Loomis shoots him over the balcony 6 times, and he's just gone. And it brings the message full circle. You go shots of the night and places that Michael have been or was, and you just hear breathing. It's amazing. It's great. It's just, I don't really know how to go into it much more than that right now. But of going into more of the Dr. Loomis side of things, Donald Pleasence does a fantastic job in this movie. He's got this calmness and this collectiveness to him that is severely lacking in the rest of the movies. Obviously, it makes sense story-wise, because the more shit that Dr. Loomis has seen, the more crazy he gets. It makes sense. It works out. But in this movie, he's got this calm and this collectiveness to him. He's got this sense of urgency, but he still has this control. He's able to explain to Lee Brackett what's going on without being over the top the way he is in Halloween 4 or 5 or 6. Well, actually 6 he's not really over the top, so I take that back. But this movie, it just utilizes all of its advantages perfectly. There's some things that fall short, such as the daytime not looking much like fall, or some of the actors being a little bit wooden, but the characters are still really interesting, and they're still well done. You have some little hiccups here and there in terms of movie mistakes. There's always going to be those things. But at the end of the day, this movie is something that just should be looked at for what it is. It's a time capsule, and something that, and a movie that had no money, it had no time, and all these different people came together to make this, and everything went right. Everything went perfectly. I'm sure it was hard to make the movie. I'm sure they had their struggles while they were doing it. But in terms of the product that us, the fans, got, that us, the world, got, the product that we got 44 years ago, it was perfect. And it is perfect. And it's a real shame to see some of the people that disrespect this movie based on the fact that there's really no blood, that it's considered boring, or this and that is considered overrated. It really kind of breaks my heart because of the way that I look at the movie and the respect and the appreciation that I have for it and what it's done. People just don't like the idea of a movie not having a lot of blood, guts, and gore because they think that's what's scary, when in reality, multiple things can be scary, more than one thing. And the route that this movie takes is a theater of the mind approach, a mood and atmosphere, a tension and suspense, a building to the final act, as opposed to giving it to you right away. This movie has a slow burn, and it's very much appreciated by myself. And the fact that this movie exists means the world to me, and I absolutely love it and adore it. That man back there, whether you're pointing to that, I don't care. All of my Halloween stuff, everything, I love it. It's my favorite Halloween movie, and it's definitely top 5 of my favorite movies of all time. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and maybe hit that notification bell. It would be greatly appreciated. And down in the comments, if you want to let me know what your favorite Halloween movie is, what you think about this movie, what your favorite timeline, your ranking, all that good stuff is. Whatever it is and anything, let me know down in the comments. I want to know. And of course, until next time, true believers.